always start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Dahman, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
No, there are no changes to the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor made by Rick, seconded by Leslie to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on that? All in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carries. Action on minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on September 13th, 2021 as presented.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor made by Rick, seconded by Dave to approve the minutes for the regular meeting held on September 13th, 2021 as presented. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor respond with aye. Aye. And opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Action on vouchers.
I would move to approve general checking account vouchers totaling $2,028,643.82 as presented.
I'll second.
There is a motion on the floor made by Dave, seconded by Rick to approve general checking account vouchers totaling $2,028,643.82 as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor respond with aye, please.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carries. Our student council rep appears to be not here, so unfortunately, we'll move on to letter F, public comment. Just quickly reviewing the policy, public comment is limited to 15 minutes with 3 minutes given to each speaker. And just as a courtesy, I'll have my clock on my phone going, and at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I'll just quietly say 30 seconds, which is a reminder to you to wind up your thoughts. Public comment is limited to items on the agenda for the evening. Participants will please introduce themselves by name before beginning, and participants will remember to address the whole board, not particular board members or other staff members, and board members will not respond as public comment is not a question and answer session. So there are 4 people signed up tonight. Joseph Rasmussen, we'll start with you.
So I'll start again. Good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. I am Joe Rasmussen from the city of Milton. So this evening I asked 2 of my elected board members how to participate in agenda item 1 Foxtrot, 1F, if I have a medical condition that prevents me from wearing my mask. So I asked 2 board members tonight about that, right? I was directed to my unelected staff member who is sitting among us. So my question still stands, and this is something I just would like you to take back, and nothing to decide tonight. But if I'm out of state and want to participate in this, if I'm here under a medical condition and I want to participate in this, how do I do that? Because we have known under COVID-19, there are plenty of options for virtual participation, but as a tax-paying member of the city of Milton, I cannot participate when I'm in my uniform in a different state. So I watched last week and I was like, I really wish I could at least chat, comment, something to at least have in the historical record. But to direct me to an unelected official, to me, is wrong. And so I just propose to you something, working group, whatever you want. Please come up with something where, because of a medical condition, if I could not wear this mask, right, how can I participate tonight? To tell me initially to go talk with Mr. Dahman, and then for Mr. Dahman to say that I can watch it online, I'm like, I got it, I can watch it. How can I participate? In agenda item 1 Foxtrot, which deals exactly with 3 Alpha, and I can't wait to hear more about that. So I don't have a lot of time. I'm not going to make you say 30 seconds or anything like that. That is my question. How do I participate if I'm out of state with work and I want to participate? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Gina Doomer.
Hi there. My name is Gina Doomer. We have 5 kids that have went through or currently in the Milton School District. I have some questions, and I know you can't answer us tonight, so I will be emailing you as well. So I look forward to those responses. First, layers of mitigation. What made the district decide on what layers of mitigation to use? Why can't we go back to 6 feet in the classroom and washing surfaces? That one actually really surprised me, that is gone off the layers of mitigation. A pandemic going around and we don't even encouraging washing down frequently touched surfaces anymore, but I regress. Why don't we add those 2 levels of mitigation and masks be optional? It got me thinking, why masks? There are numerous other layers of mitigation to act on. So this brings me to my next question. Has the Milton School District gotten or allotted to get extra COVID relief funds by having our district be universally masked? Next, reading through the COVID-19 Family Guide, there is some questions I have on that as well. There has been numerous kids now that have been in close contact with a student with COVID-19 and has since had to quarantine. The Milton School District is sending an extremely confusing message when these kids are masked in the classroom, but their teacher still needs to give a report on who sits next to them in the class. And they still need to quarantine for close contact. Why? Both parties in question were wearing masks. It is sending an extremely confusing message to these kids. And that message, masks don't work. If the masks are there to do a job, you are making it clear to our parents and students they are not doing that job. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Anthony Falso.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Falso. I'm a Janesville resident, and I have a son who attends a Harmony School in Milton School District, and a daughter who will be attending here in a couple of years. My family just moved to the area very recently, and part of the reason we moved to the area was to have our children attend Milton School District schools. I sat through last month during the annual meeting that you guys presented, and I was really impressed with the staff's presentations on budget matters and all the matters that were attended to at that meeting. And what I was most impressed with was that it appeared that the staff, and I'm assuming by virtue of what the staff presented, that the board is very data-driven in your decision-making processes. And that's great. I was impressed. And then the following meeting occurred, and what shocked me and I found really incredulous was how it seemed that at least some members of the board were completely disregarding all of the major data from the medical field, science. And I could not understand how there were all these decisions that the board was making that were based on how you feel and what you've heard. And who you've talked to, and forget what all the scientists and one of the board members had. I could, again, incredulous during the meeting, one of the board members said that they had searched and could not find a peer-reviewed study that showed that masks worked, when there are literally scores and scores and scores of these peer-reviewed studies available. And again, I found that to be incredulous. What I really wanted to do was, though, to thank all of you board members for your service, because this is not easy. Like I said, I'm new to the area. Whether I disagree with the policies, decisions that some of you may vote on and certain things, that's going to happen. But I really thank you all for your service, because this is not easy. I think you guys are half crazy to be up there, honestly. You couldn't get me to do it, but I do appreciate what all of you are doing, and just thank you and the staff for all the hard work you're doing as well. But coming from my family, and I know many other families that we know in the area, we really hope that you continue to follow the science, follow the recommendations of the health experts, and keep the masks in the schools until this is all under control. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last is John Doomer.
Hi, my name is John Doomer. I have been a proud Milton resident for 17 years. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I also emailed each and every one of you on Friday with some of the bullet points I plan on speaking about. Thank you to those that have replied back to me. It's my hope that all of you had a few minutes to read through it. Just in case you have not, I will summarize now. As a parent that is very much for mask choice, I do understand there are times when masking could be justified. However, the question becomes, when is that time? A few other questions I'd like to know: when does it end? What are we basing our decisions on? What is the collateral damage of wearing a mask? How much division in this community can we take? I know some of these questions we just don't know, and that makes it hard for everyone. You see, no matter what we all vote on tonight, you will have some people that are not going to be happy. If you vote for mask choice, some will be angry. And conversely, if you continue mask mandate, some will be angry. What I want to focus on is the majority in the middle. How can we keep kids in school, give parents better clarity, and keep this community together? You see, like many communities across this country, we are headed down a dangerous path. I would like to present what I feel is a very viable option. Please consider implementing a dashboard. The dashboard would be filled with data directly from the DHS in regards to our school district. When we hit certain level, to be determined, we go to a mask mandate or mask choice dependent on what the actual numbers tell us. This allows the district to be very transparent with the community. As it currently sits, we wait for a meeting like this one that happens one time per month. The dashboard would be set for 2-week increments possibly. With the dashboard system, I feel it would take so much pressure off you all. The numbers would become the numbers and how the mask issue is handled. Another thing to very strongly consider is that in this dashboard environment, I feel as if teachers and administrators can stop being mask police. I've heard from a handful of teachers how much extra stress this causes. This is not fair to the teachers, and I hate it for them. I've also sent some of you data that compares the Milton and Whitewater school districts. Although they are and have been mask choice since the start of school, we here in Milton have just under 40% more positive cases from the start of the school year. Why is this? How can they be mask choice and have lower case counts? I spend the time and energy on this mask issue because I feel as a parent to 5 kids, they deserve it. I know some of you do not feel or agree with me on the mask choice, and that's okay. Like a strong marriage, I feel there needs to be a compromise. The dashboard concept, in my opinion, is exactly that. Please make this part of your discussion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dahman, could you just check quickly to make sure there wasn't anyone else signed up that I missed? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 2, the referendum. Mr. Huffman, we look forward to your report. As always, thanks for being here this evening.
Okay, good evening. You should have my report in your packet, and I wanted to go through, of course, a brief discussion of things that are now turned over and are in use. As I'm sure you're aware, there was a absolute flurry of activity leading up to the first day of school, where the majority of the spaces were turned over for use, albeit some of them with temporary materials installed to meet with the code requirements and meet with functional requirements. In the interim time, there's been quite a bit of those materials, those temporary materials that have been replaced with the permanent materials. There are, however, a few spaces that lag. We've been talking for some time about the new gym and the challenges that the team has experienced there in turning over the space. We do now have a date that everyone feels confident with in October 15th. And I understand that coincides with events that you have scheduled in the space. So it is definitely a hard deadline. In association with the new gym, there are spaces that are ancillary to that that will be turned over on the same time frame. Specifically, the new concession stand in the new event entry lobby. There is a temporary countertop in there at the moment, and there is no overhead coiling door that will be installed and functional also along the timeline of October 15th. There's a couple of items in there that extend out into early November, most specifically the expansion of your cafeteria into what was, I believe, formerly a dance or choir room. Lost track of that, but it is an expansion area to your cafeteria, and you'll have the ability to close that off and decide at which times you use that expansion area, which times you don't. So there are big overhead coiling doors that go in there. Those doors are delayed in their shipment to the site, but we expect to have that in by November 1st. And then finally, there are a couple of items that actually are here. Well, the first item, new balcony railings in the old gym. Those railings are here, but it doesn't make sense to hinder the use of that space. It's a bit of a long time install and a bit of a dusty process, so the decision has been made to defer that into next summer. And then we've talked a little bit in the past about the disappointment we've had with the cementitious coating that is on your pool deck and the staining, modeling appearance that it took on. There's been quite a bit of investigative work on that. No solution yet. Well, rather, there are a couple of solutions out there, but the team, including your staff, have not yet landed on what is the preferred solution. But that is an activity that will take place in the spring after your scheduled uses for the pool. Otherwise, we're wrapping up quality assurance checks, punch list checks of the spaces. We're now trying to centralize all of the issues that remain to be complete, be they construction issues, furniture issues, owner issues related to the construction project, deficiencies that need to get addressed. We're trying to gather that all on a simple document, one simple document that your administrative staff can follow along with to understand that, yes, items that they see that are incomplete are indeed on that list, and that they have a timeline in which they can expect completion of those items. Of course, if they see something that's not on that list, we're encouraging them to make sure we've got it and we get it on the list and get it tracked. And I think that's it for tonight. Questions?
Mike, quick question with the outdoor spaces, the landscaping looks like it's projected to finish up in November, which realistically grass isn't going to grow and some of these things. Will they come back in the spring and make sure the grass does grow and doesn't get washed out over the winter months and things like that, or what will happen in those areas?
Yeah, a couple of parts to answering your question. The vast majority of the seeding has been put down. There are some specialty areas around where there was construction work still ongoing that the landscaper has to come back and to finish. My general rule of thumb is that if we can get grass seed down before October 1st, it has a pretty good chance of taking and holding. In fact, the days here in September of heat during the day and cool at night are excellent for growing grass. Typically, I think if we don't get seed down by October 1st, I'd just assume wait and get a little later into the fall and then seed it, so it becomes a dormant seed and sits throughout the winter, ready for growth right away in the spring. Sometimes it's difficult to get out in the spring real early when it's the best time to get that seed in, just because the land is soft. So you're better off getting it into the fall and having it be a dormant seed over the winter.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay. You asked a question a couple board meetings ago that I told you I'd get back to you. You asked a question about why in front of the high school some of the sidewalk was put back in asphalt rather than in concrete. All that. So if you go out and look at it, our civil engineers that designed that, where the sidewalk was interrupted to create the new parking lots, that actually was an asphalt path previously.
Okay.
So there's a section of asphalt sidewalk, and then there's a section of new asphalt sidewalk, and then it's asphalt sidewalk again, about down to the ice cream shop. So they just matched what was there and filled in with like material. Other questions?
I have a quick one, Mike. Respected to like the concrete decking there in the pool that we've got to remediate or go back to, is the cost of that borne with the contractors so we don't have exposure there?
Yes.
Towards the end of the project here?
Yes, the subcontractor is Badger Pools, and they have another tier subcontractor that did the cement finish for them. And that's where the cost will lie.
Any other questions for Mike?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 3, superintendent update. We'll start with the update on the Milton Forward Plan. Mr. Dahlman, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I have a couple of different things in the update. As Mike mentioned, we'll start with the update on the Milton Forward Plan. We're not recommending any changes to the Milton Forward Plan at this time, but I wanted to give the board and community an update on where we are. Our multiple layers of protection seem to be working very well so far. Our level of community spread is in line with that in other area school districts. Transmission is pretty high across both the state, county, and district. The State Department of Health Services has 4 different levels, and our county is at the high level right now. One of the attachments that Kim has up on the board shows a continued increase in the number of current positive cases. That data is the number of positive active cases per 10,000 of population. It's not specific to our student population or our staff. It's everyone that lives within our school district. And that's currently at 35.4 active cases per 10,000 residents. If we compare that back to a year ago, it's about double where we were at this time a year ago. And while those while that community spread is at that high level, we have been fortunate so far to have lower levels of positive cases in our schools, both amongst students and staff, and lower levels of quarantines, both quarantines from in-house and out of in school and out of school. You can see the COVID dashboard there. This was as of September 23rd, but 7 positive cases at that time among students, 1 positive case among staff. And you can see the corresponding for students and staff numbers of people in quarantine at that time. That number does change from day to day as some people who are positive cases are removed from that list once they're given clearance to return. And the same thing with quarantines. There are people added to that and taken off of that list. As I said, we've had in school, we've had a low number of positive cases and quarantines. We haven't had to have any classroom-wide or school-wide quarantines or cancel activities at this point. That's something that many other school districts are dealing with. So it's a good indication that our layered strategy of safety protocol is working. We do know that could change at any time. We know of many cases where, both in our district and in other districts, where a positive case can turn into a significant number of close contacts that need to be quarantined, and also other positive cases. And with that high transmission level across both the state, the county, and the school district outside of our schools, we could be looking at more stringent protocol measures, but I think at this point our balanced approach is the best path. There are some districts that have chosen to have a vaccination requirement of staff. That isn't something that we are recommending at this point. Other districts have returned to a hybrid instruction or other ways to increase physical distancing. But we know that students learn best for the most part when they're in school. And we also know that we aren't able to maintain 6 feet of physical distancing at all times in our schools. Some districts have chosen to limit extracurriculars to limit the spread. That isn't something that we're advocating at this time, but we continue to use our recommendations from the Rock County Health Department, the DHS, and CDC, with that desire to stay safe and open as a district. I want to highlight a couple different things that we're doing and continue to do because some questions have come up about different safety protocols. With ventilation in our schools, we're bringing in the maximum amount of fresh air possible in all of our school buildings, and we upgraded our air filters and our HVAC equipment to the highest MERV level possible, given the available filter size in each piece of equipment. We're following the advice of our environmental health and safety consultants and using best practices available to promote the maximum amount of air exchange in all of our buildings. With vaccinations, we continue to strongly recommend that people who are eligible for the vaccination get vaccinated. Currently, 61% of our 12 through 18-year-olds are fully vaccinated. That number continues to rise. We have received some reports that the vaccine might be available for those ages 5 to 11, possibly by early November. So initially we had heard maybe at the start of the new year, but that date has been moved up, and we'll keep monitoring that information. We continue to promote physical distancing whenever possible. Again, although we know in schools we can't keep everyone 6 feet apart at all times. We offer free COVID testing here at the district office for anyone interested in getting tested. That free testing site has had, over the last 3 weeks, it's averaged about 10 people per day coming through, and is pretty consistently between 10 and 15 over the past 3 weeks. With our universal masking, a large majority of our students are following this rule to the letter. They're doing a really great job with that. We have had a few students who have come to school with mesh masks that come from a website that you can order fake masks on. And we've had to address that with them, but that's been a very small number. I've been very pleased with how our students have responded to this. And our staff give reminders to students when needed, but for the most part, again, our students and staff have done a really nice job with that. Next steps coming up would be to continue what's been working, following those recommendations of the CDC, of DHS, and Rock County Public Health Department, maintaining those multiple layers of protection, and then following the decision that was made in late August, we would revisit that data with the school board monthly, unless the school board decides that we would want to revisit that either more often or less often. But as of now, it's at that second board meeting every month. So open to any questions or board comments on that topic before I move on to the next item.
Mr. Dutman, do you know if the testing on the district premises here, is that for any community member, or is it just for district families, or just for students, or?
I believe it's open to any community member, but I'm going to double check with Carrie Kleba because I think she has the answer to that. Is our on-site COVID testing that we offer available to any community member that wants to take part?
My understanding is that it is for staff, students, and their families.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. The family guide says that if you're masked within greater than 3 feet, you don't have to do a close contact quarantine. So both people being masked, is that true?
Yes, if and this is for students only, it's not for adults, but for students, if you that 6 foot physical distance guideline goes down to 3 feet if you're in a classroom. So it's not the case in a lunchroom or in a gym. It is specific to the classroom, and it's if both people are masked properly during that time.
Okay, so the 3 feet doesn't apply to the cafeteria or the library or gym?
In classrooms.
In classrooms only.
Mm-hmm.
So all the people that were close contacts on the dashboard currently were not in classrooms?
No, that wouldn't necessarily have to be the case. You could be a close contact if you're within 3 feet of someone, or if you have physical contact with them. For instance, if you're in an athletic team where you're having physical contact with someone, might be an example, or sitting next to someone in the lunchroom, or in a classroom setting where you're inside of that 3 feet, or in a classroom setting where the mask wasn't being worn properly during that time. So it could be any of those possibilities.
Okay. So, and I'm just curious. So at what point, meaning what number do you feel we need to get to justify a mask choice policy?
I think there's a lot of moving parts to that decision, both whether we would loosen our protocol or tighten our protocol. As I mentioned earlier, in my update, we're at our county and our school district are at what's called a high level of transmission. The Department of Human Services, the Department of Health Services and Rock County Public Health both monitor that on their website. Mm-hmm. So we look at, in kind of an overall viewpoint, what are our current safety protocols and do we need to either tighten or loosen them at this point? I think because we're at that high level across the community and we know that our students and staff are out in the community throughout the day. I realize that they're in our schools during the school day, but in evenings and in the weekends, there's always interaction with others. So we need to make sure that we have a system in place that maintains that level of safety for our students and staff, families, and community. So it isn't as simple as putting a number on the number of transmissions or the number of people vaccinated or the number of positive cases in our schools. It really is looking at all of those things together. With the high transmission rate currently across our school district, it would probably be more prudent for us to tighten rather than loosen our protocol, but at this point, we're not recommending doing that because it seems that, again, at this point, our current protocol in place are working pretty well.
Okay, what do you feel about the proposed idea of a dashboard basing our policy on percentage?
I think we could put together something that says if cases get this high, we're going to become more stringent with our protocol. And if cases go below a certain number of points, if the number of cases is what we wanted to use. But as I said before, I don't know that tying a move in either direction to an individual number is wise for us. We don't want our hands to be tied and say we have to become more stringent if it gets up to a certain amount, that we have to go hybrid or we have to cancel extracurricular activities. We want to have that decision made based on all the available data, not just are we above a certain bar that we developed or below. And the same thing going in the other direction. We don't want to loosen restrictions just based on whether we're above or below a certain bar. We want to look holistically at what the trends are, where we're moving as a district, what that recommendation is from the medical and health experts with the county and the state and the CDC.
Okay.
So I wouldn't recommend that at this time, no, and I wouldn't recommend a change in either direction at this time.
Okay. And then per our conversation earlier, I just wanted to talk to you about the document from DPI regarding the ESSER funds. Pull that up here. Are you aware of the document that DPI put out?
Yeah, do you want me to describe it a little bit so others know what we're talking
Absolutely, thank you.
And I know Leslie hasn't gone into detail on this, but we talked about it on the phone, so I can kind of describe what document she's talking about. There is information on the State Department of Public Instruction's website that has some details about the ESSER 3 funds and some things that school districts need to do in regards to those funds. The final plan with that, or the actual plan, isn't finalized yet because the state put in a response to the federal government and hasn't heard back yet on approval. So districts are still waiting to hear back from the state on whether the state's plan is approved. But right now, what it describes is the federal requirement that every district will put together a plan for the federal government. And one of the things that it asks for is that every district describes their safety protocol, the safety protocol that they have in place across their district. There are other pieces to it that are asked to be described, but one of the things that is being asked to be described is the safety protocol. There isn't anything in that explanation that ties that to funding at all or to any requirement that we follow any certain COVID protocol. I know one of the speakers earlier asked about that question too, and there isn't anything that we've seen or that we've been made aware of that requires us to have any specific safety protocol in place to be eligible for the ESSER 3 funding, or that requires us to do anything more than letting them know what safety protocol we do have in place. I don't know if did that answer what you were asking about, Leslie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for Rich before he moves on to point B? It appears not.
If not, on item 3B, an update on school nutrition. This was an article in the Red Hawk Review, but I wanted to make sure that I spoke specifically to that. School districts across the country are dealing with some food availability issues, some shortages in different areas. Some deliveries have been delayed, so sometimes it's something that our food service has ordered and it's on its way, but it doesn't get there in time for the advertised meal. So this affects our calendar of what meals are going to be served each day. And it's something that they're saying is we possibly might be dealing with for the remainder of this school year, are those delays and shortages in different types of food. So our food service staff does a great job of planning ahead of time, identifying what those meals are, communicating those meals out with parents and students and the community. But there's going to be some cases where that advertised menu isn't going to be able to be followed because of shortages in or delays in delivery. So we're going to continue to monitor that. We're also, with our food service staff, working toward being fully staffed. We're not fully staffed yet with our food service staff. We have some positions that are open that we're accepting applications on, and we'll continue to do that. So I wanted to make, even though that was in the Red Hawk Review, I wanted to make sure that the board was alert to what was happening with school nutrition there. Any questions, comments, thoughts on that topic? If not, the third item in my update is on Central Park. We had a discussion earlier with the board about the possibility of the city of Milton doing a transfer of real property with the Central Park to the school district. As we shared before, that item was going to go to the Common Council of the city of Milton. They had a discussion on this topic last week, and I'm going to share the motion that was approved. I want to make sure that I get it accurately, so I'm going to read it here. Their motion that was made and approved at that last city council meeting was to approve the transfer of the property as long as an amicable agreement may be made between the city of Milton and the Milton School District. So their council approved moving forward and looking for an agreement. And a logical next step, because this is a legal transaction, is to have a lawyer representing us and a lawyer representing them draw up some paperwork that would then come to the city council and the school board for approval. So in general, what happened at the city council meeting continued to move that process forward. I definitely had the impression from the board that you were okay with us continuing to move that process forward. We didn't take any action on anything, but I want to make sure that any questions or concerns that board members have are addressed. So if you have thoughts, questions, or concerns, this would be a good time to share those.
Any inclination what amicable agreement might mean?
That certainly could be interpreted in a lot of different ways. I'm assuming that means that it was their way of giving their lawyer an okay to work on something with our lawyer, work out an agreement with our lawyer. So I don't have any assumption beyond that. If there aren't any other questions, the next item is the WASDA Fall Conference, Fall Superintendent Conference highlights. WASDA is the Wisconsin Association of School District Administrators. That fall conference took place at the end of last week, and I just wanted to let the board know there are a number of very informative sessions that I attended, some around budgeting, and they really reinforced that the likelihood that districts across the state will see an upcoming fiscal cliff in 2 years if there are no changes. So something that Carrie Bradley has been talking to our board about the impact that current action by the legislature has on both this current year, but also in the upcoming couple years. So that was really reinforced and something that we need to be alert to. Multiple sessions on meeting the needs of all learners and what that means, how school districts can ensure that those needs are met for all learners. And that also is something that's built directly into our strategic plan and something that we talk a lot about in our district. And then also some sessions on COVID protocols and what different districts are doing with COVID protocols. So those are a few of the main topics, but not an exhaustive list of the topics that were discussed at that conference. And if there isn't anything else on that, the last item I had is just a reminder that School Board Appreciation Week is coming up the week of October 3rd through 9th. I know being a school board member is a difficult job. You have to make very, very tough decisions representing the community, and it's important that we recognize the work that you do. So we have some things planned coming up for that week of October 3rd through 9th to recognize School Board Appreciation Week. And the work that all of you do is vitally important to our success as a school district. It makes a huge positive impact on our students, our staff, our families, and our community. So thank you all for the work that you do.
Thank you, Rich, for all of those updates. Appreciate all the time and energy you put into that. Moving on to item number 4, new business. We have a discussion and a possible action item. Carrie, am I going to invite you to the podium to discuss that?
He's going to say, I don't believe holding this is using himself on this discussion and vote.
Thank you.
Ready? Okay.
We are ready.
All right. So if you recall last meeting, we talked about cash flow borrowing and how we need to borrow funds to meet our immediate expenses because the rate at which the money comes in is not the same at the rate that money goes out. And we hit times in there where we dip. And our strategy was to use one loan for the entire year and then to get a line of credit through our local banks for a much shorter window to get us through that shorter window. So to that end, we solicited bids from the Bank of Milton and First Community Bank. And you can see that First Community Bank came in with a lower bid. And so we're recommending that you go with First Community Bank at a rate of 2.49%. And that would be to borrow up to $1.9 million, and that's in the resolution. To follow up, Joe, at the last meeting, you talked about the 1.9, and so I followed up with bond counsel, and that is a local limit that our banks are choosing. So, so that's the answer to that question. And with that, do you have any questions? Otherwise, I think we're ready to roll, and this is the last step, and we shall see.
There's no questions here. I'll put the motion on the floor. It's second. We can talk about it. Mr. President, I move to adopt the resolution authorizing tax and revenue anticipation contract notice for cash flow borrowing purposes in an amount not to exceed $1,900,000 pursuant to section 67.12 sub 8 sub A sub 1 and approve the temporary borrowing from First Community Bank in an amount not to exceed $1,900,000 at an interest rate of 0.49%.
Second that.
There's a motion on the floor made by Joe, seconded by Rick, to adopt the resolution authorizing a taxable tax and revenue anticipatory promissory note for cash flow purposes in an amount not to exceed $1,900,000 pursuant to section 67.12 sub 8 sub A sub 1 and approve the temporary borrowing from First Community Bank in an amount not to exceed $1,900,000 at an interest rate of 2.49%. Any discussion, questions?
Yeah, I'll just kind of echo what Carrie put out there. Obviously, everyone realizes this is step 2 of our total cash flow borrow solution, if you will. I'm sorry. Can't hear.
Sorry, Derek.
Thanks, Carrie. So yeah, this is step 2 of our total needs. We already approved the long-term borrow from the PMA, the pooled monies, et cetera. And then we had put it out for bids with our local folks. And the strategy several years ago, and we're following that still, is to minimize the interest expense. We use this hybrid model of some borrowing from a longer term, some borrowing from a shorter term. So some folks have asked, why would we do both of these? And it's an attempt to minimize our interest expense. So just thought I would put that out for folks.
Thanks, Joe. Any other questions, comments?
If we don't do this, then we're not going to have any money come November? Or is that?
So we'll get the first borrowing from PMA,
Mm-hmm.
and then that'll get us, and usually it's this, it's like the last week in November.
Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. Okay, so just to clarify, we'll get the first borrowing, that'll get us through our October window. But in the third week in November is when we're projecting our lowest, our biggest shortfall. So basically, the cash flow borrowing ensures that we have the cash to make our payroll and to pay our bills, and so that I can sleep at night.
Okay. And then the interest rate, how much will we be paying in interest? Do you know offhand?
So the rate they quoted is 2.4.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, the rate was 2.39, and we ended up borrowing about 1.2 million and paying about $1,000 in interest for
Okay.
the cash flow borrowing from the bank.
Thank
for
you.
the line of credit.
Thanks, Carrie.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will repeat the motion just so we're clear. It's to adopt the resolution authorizing a taxable tax and revenue anticipation promissory note for cash flow purposes in amount not to exceed $1,900,000 pursuant to section 67.12 sub 8 sub A sub 1, and approve the temporary borrowing from First Community Bank in an amount not to exceed $1,900,000 at an interest rate of 2.49%. We'll do a roll call vote, starting with Shelley. And Jen?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Mike is a yes. Leslie?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
And Davis abstaining from the vote. So the motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, and thanks for supporting my sleep at night.
We want you to sleep at night, Carrie.
Yeah, I don't want to wake up wondering if I got enough money to pay bills, so thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, round up David, get him back.
We'll give Dave a minute to get back here. Okay, we will move down to item B under new business, action on 2021-22 open enrollment alternative applications, which are in board docs.
I'll move to approve the 2021-22 open enrollment alternative applications as presented.
A second. Oh, sorry.
There's a motion on the floor made by Rick, seconded by Leslie, to approve the 2021-22 open enrollment alternative applications as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor respond with aye. Aye, and opposed nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to miscellaneous. Action on staffing reports, again, which is in board docs.
I will move to approve the staffing report as presented.
There is a motion on the floor made by Joe, seconded by Leslie, to approve the staffing report as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor respond with aye. Aye, and opposed nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving down to item B, action on gifts and donations.
I'll move to approve the gifts and donations with gratitude.
Motion on the floor made by Rick, seconded by Jen, to approve the gifts and donations, always with gratitude. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
And opposed nay. Motion carries. Mr. Dahman, upcoming meeting dates.
We have a couple upcoming meetings that are either scheduled or that we need to get scheduled. We're looking for an HR committee meeting next week. Possible dates are Wednesday or Thursday, October 6th or 7th. And I'll go through the whole list, and the HR committee can be looking at their schedules while I'm sharing the rest of these, and we can bounce back to that one. Our next regular board meeting is on Monday, October 11th at 6:30. We have a curriculum committee meeting scheduled for October 13th at 9 a.m. That was curriculum, October 13th at 9 a.m. We're looking to schedule a finance committee meeting on either October 21st or 22nd. Again, that's finance committee on either October 21st or 22nd if possible. And then the other October school board meeting is on Monday, October 25th at 6:30 p.m. So any word on HR or finance on those possible dates?
Do HR since the Wednesday? Yes. Yeah. That work, Rich?
So HR Wednesday the 6th at 1 o'clock?
Yep.
Yep. And finance, we said when?
I would say the 21st, but remind us at the next board meeting to confirm that.
Okay. And do we have a,
10 days out, right? Meet on the 11th.
yeah.
Is there a time for that?
Is there a time that works best that we could pencil in?
Middays are good for me, but midday, 12, 1. So there's no, 12 or 1, 8. Doesn't matter, but.
Carrie Bradley, will an hour for that finance committee meeting be enough time?
I think so. What we're going to be doing is looking at our changes for the annual meeting.
Sure.
The budget that we're ready for adoption.
Yep.
So I can do that hour, but if you have a lot of questions, then
We'll get hours now too.
So what time did you say?
Let's go at noon.
Noon? All right, and we'll give a reminder at that next meeting, and we'll send invites out to each of those. That was everything that I had for our upcoming meeting.